I'm trying to see how best to share it. I'm having challenges with sharing it. Can I just go on audio? Share. Okay. So I'm Abel Dzobo from Maryland State University. I'm in the media communication and cultural affairs department, and my topic is Caucasian appropriation of Iron Age Zimbabwean zero-tillage agriculture as Fumvudza. A case of films We Were Primitive, 1947, and Foundations for Farming videos. These are from 2019 to 2020, though this is a program that is still running. May I please apologize for that failure to share my PowerPoint? Um, and then, with this, what is happening is the Zimbabwean government from 2019 has been spearheading a conservation agriculture program known as Fumvudza or Intwasa. This its founder is called Brian Oldrive, a farmer who says he conceived Fumvudza after much prayer and fasting. So Fumvudza is also known as Diga Uji or Diga Ugute, like dig the ground and then you have food. That is the literal translation. Fumvudza basically is whereby you have got a very small plot that is about a tenth of a hectare, where you dig holes, 56 lines of holes at 90 centimeters by 45 centimeters, the way we do when we are planting maize. And then you don't use, then you use manure and compost to fertilize the soil in that hole. That's also where you're going to apply a bit of fertilizer again in the wall, and then you mulch the inter-row and the intra-row. You put some grass there so that when it rains, you have got some mulch. So that is Fumvudza. And then Brian Aldrev is a white farmer. He has now formed an organization called Foundations for Farming, which is spearheading Fumvudza. And the Zimbabwean government has bought into it lock, stock, and barrel, and they are really running with the Fumvudza as an agricultural program. So this is Fumvudza basically it's digging holes using a hoe, a handheld hoe, and then you dig holes in the ground. They are trying it minimum tillage or zero tillage as conservation agriculture. So Brian Oldrive says that Oldrive says he was praying a lot and fasting, and then he says he got a revelation that he should use a hoe to farm the way God wants. So to him, he says, when you dig these holes and you mulch the ground, it is just like the leaves fall from the tree and then they cover the ground and then they keep the moisture in the ground and they fertilize the soil. So that becomes the basics of this Fumvudza. But then this study now is trying to show that this is only appropriation of indigenous knowledge systems. This is the Caucasian who is back again to like we had this type of farming in pre-colonial Zimbabwe and all of pre-colonial Africa. We moved from we developed from Stone Age to Iron Age on our own. We made iron tools like hoes, spears, and knives. This has been corroborated by evidence. I used pictures from the journal by someone, by a historian called Karl Mauch, from 11 September 1871. He went to Great Zimbabwe Monuments in 1871, where he he actually saw and photographed iron ores at Great Zimbabwe, and also some French welded iron gongs that were there, which showed that these were sophisticated agricultural practice. I mean, sophisticated blacksmiths who were already working using iron. That would place the whole as the principal tool that was used in pre-colonial Zimbabwe. 1871, that is 19 years before the pioneer column came into Zimbabwe through South Africa, from South Africa via the Limpopo. That is in 1890. So this is when I was able to actually corroborate that this Iron Age in the Zimbabwe, or at the Great Zimbabwe Monuments, it was actually even before the coming of the whites. And if you were seeing my slide, I have that as an image. And then, so now we go to defining IKS, or indigenous knowledge systems. This is institutionalized local knowledge that has been built upon and passed on from one generation to the other by word of mouth. This is by Nyong et al., 2007, page 792. And then Mapara 2009 says IKS are those forms of knowledge that the people of the formerly colonized countries survived on before the advent of colonialism. So Mapara just simplifies it and says, this is what we were using before the advent of colonialism. And then, so we also talk of IKS, like in agriculture, we were using chitemene or slash and burn, where to a place that is a forest, they burn the forest, then they use the ash there that is fertilizer, they use this to till the soil, plant crops. When the soil fertility is lost, they move to another area and leave that area that cultivated, they leave it to recover, so that again some trees grow and the nutrients again are to the soil. And again, Beach in 1983 says that the Shona people of Zimbabwe had been growing traditional grain crops like finger millet, rapoko or rukweza, and sorghum. They've been growing this 2,000 years before even the whites came. So that means we had an agriculture system that was based on traditional grains or small grains that were drought resistant and where they could actually get food. So a timeline is in 1890, the colonialists came, the British. And then in 1896, 1897, there's the first Chimurenga War that was fought between black Zimbabweans and the whites. And we lost that war as Africans and as black Zimbabweans. And then the British now, in order for them to dismantle or to subjugate the African, they also then decided that they were going to attack the culture of people. And this is where you find books like The Heart of Darkness by Conrad, whereby they are saying it's the Caucasian who must come in and civilize the African. So that comes into play. And then again, we find that Christianity and film, they were taken as some of the socializing agents in this bid to dismantle the cultural attachment, to dismantle the culture of the black person, so that they could then be assimilated into the white economy, into the white system as subjects, not as citizens. And film was then being used to teach good hygiene, farming practices, general etiquette, and also to cultivate loyal subjects to the British. Those become the uses of film. And then again, as a background, a film in the colonies, you find that the first film that was made as an educational film was Unhooking the Hookworm in 1920. This was made in the States by the Rockefeller Foundation, and also Malaria in 1925. Again, this was by the Rockefeller Foundation, where they were making films showing how the Western sciences could deal with the hookworm and also could treat malaria. And then in 1929, there's a film in Punjab, India, where there's a lazy, snobbish mate who comes in as Mr. Foolish, and then there's another young man, Idris, who is portrayed as a Mr. Wise. This is according to Ben's 2013. Um, this is whereby this is so in 1929. That's when the Caucasian started that trope of Wise versus Mr. Foolish, or the good farmer, bad farmer. So it starts with the film in India. But the British in Tanganyika, Ghana, and Kenya, then they protested and they said, no, we cannot actually have, Americans or British being shown in Africa. We need to make sure these are Africans, so that the Africans can see themselves on screen. And then so in 1935, and then they were also saying these audiences are very primitive. These Africans, they cannot follow complex issues. They need to see pictures. The black man the black person is like a child. You cannot really give them wholesome entertainment. You cannot really show them complicated stuff. So there was that need to say, let's simplify a film for the native. So in 1935, they formed the Bantu Educational Kinema Experiment, or Beke, which was meant to create films meant for the simple-minded native, according to them. And they even, Beke also went on to make a film, The Tropical Hookworm. It followed Unhooking the Hookworm that had been produced in the US. So now they were localizing it as The Tropical Hookworm. And Beke was funded by the Carnegie Foundation, the steel company, steel and engineering company. And then in 1948, after the Second World War, they were then going to launch the government of Southern Rhodesia, Northern Rhodesia, and Nyasaland, the Federation. From 1948 to 1963, they formed the Central African Film Unit, or CAFU. And the CAFU was supposed to come in as to make films that made black people into loyal subjects through the three countries. Northern Rhodesia, Zambia, former Southern Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, and then Nyasaland is now modern day Malawi. So CAFU was for those three, while Beke was for Anglophone, all of Anglophone Africa, even including South Africa, even including Nigeria, Kenya, Tanzania also. So all of Anglophone Africa was covered under Beke. So these movies, we've got the Good Farmer, Bad Farmer movies that were made that showed that the one who listens to the agricultural extension worker and uses modern methods like the tractor or the ox-drawn plow, and also uses fertilizers like ammonium nitrate, then they would get a big harvest. While the one who refused to listen to the agriculture extension officer or agriculture demonstrator would come up with a poor harvest. So that was the movie. That was the trope in the movies: the bad farmer versus the good farmer. The good farmer follows the Caucasian way of doing things. The bad farmer follows the indigenous way of doing things. When it was in health, if you did not go to hospital, you were portrayed in the movie as dying. Because you were using traditional medicines. And then the one who went to hospital would be shown as surviving. So the scripts would always make sure there was a good farmer, bad farmer dichotomy, or a wise meets Mr. Fool all the time. And then the wise person or the good person is the one who listens or who follows the dictates of the Caucasian or of the colonizer, brings in is it friar? To be is to be like, and to be like is to be like the oppressor. So there was that straight jacket. Such objectives. So the first one is to identify similarities or differences in colonial agriculture propaganda films and then the present day Pfumvudza videos. So we were a primitive film of 1947 is juxtaposed with the foundations for farming videos that are here today, so that we try and find out what are the similarities in the way, in the framing, in the representation, in the portrayal of issues. And then the second objective is to investigate similarities and or differences in pre-colonial organic agriculture techniques and present day Pfumvudza or Intrasa program. So that becomes the second objective. And then the third one now is to establish the discourses that emanate from the colonial film were primitive. So that becomes the third objective. And propaganda films and present day Pfumvudza videos. Okay. I'm sorry. By the colonial film and the. So in literature review, I came up basically with three key themes, whereby the first one becomes that of so the first one becomes that of IKS. Sorry, the first one becomes that one of the Caucasian suppression of IKS, or the Caucasian suppression of indigenous knowledge systems. And the argument is that the IKSs we've seen or discussed before, they've been used for centuries. They've done well for us in the past. And IKS has been very useful in predicting weather patterns like drought, using plant phenology, patterns in the sky, or even human and animal behavior. And this is by Mapara 2009, Manyani et al. 2017, and also in health, particularly traditional medicines, and that is from Ntuli 2002. Then Western thought it regards IKS as archaic. That is from Briggs 2005, Kugara et al. 2022, and then is also perceived as primitive and uncivilized. That's according to Agrawal 1995. And then the triple forces of colonialism, that is Christianity, modernity, and the triple forces of Christianity, colonialism, and modernity are seen as the ones that are behind marginalization of IKS, that is by Ngulube et al. 2011. And then also IKS has been peripherized, that's 2015. And this peripherization is akin to a knowledge apartheid. So there's that issue of the Caucasian deliberately suppressing IKS, both in colonial and also even in post-colonial Africa and the developing world, other areas like Asia. There's still that issue of trying to suppress IKS. And then we also say that even though there are some calls for integration of bioscientific knowledge and IKS, but there's a lot of resistance. And this is from Kogara et al. 2022 and also Mutasa 2015. There was sort of that resistance from the biosciences or from the Western thought. They still look down upon IKS. And then small grains are under threat from maize culture. That's 2015. You find that maize is still the one that is being grown a lot, and programs like Pfumvudza, they are coming in to also suppress the small grains by saying, instead of us going full blown on maize or on small grains which are drought tolerant, we are still being told to farm maize by digging, using hose, and planting a small portion of land instead of us going for small grain that are more drought tolerant. And then IKS is also under threat from extinction. That's Ngulube et al. 2011. That because of this suppression, IKS is at risk. It is still being passed on through oral knowledge, but then you find that because of Christianity, because of the Western education that we were getting, at the end of the day, we no longer believe that if a certain type of bird sings in a certain way, it's going to rain tomorrow. Or if you have got many girl children born, it means it is going to be a good rainy season. But when it is more boy children born, then that means it's going to be a drought. So people then start saying, no, that is archaic. We can't use that. Let's go for the biosciences. Let's go for the meteorological services department to predict the weather. And then the second theme becomes that of the Caucasian appropriation of IKS. So Kugara et al. 2022 raises concern of appropriation of IKS by whites for their own gain. So there is that issue of appropriating some of our IKS, and they take them as theirs. Mushana 2013 brings in the issue of biopiracy, whereby indigenous medicinal plants were appropriated and are still being appropriated. And then the type of medicines or the pills that come from those plants, they are then patented, and then they sell it to us, and we get nothing out of it. So there's that issue of biopiracy, and Tuli also brings that issue again of biopiracy. Then Hutonji, 2002, interrogates this appropriation in a post-colonial context, that it is still happening as of today. Then Tuli, 2002, again assesses how this appropriation of IAKS by Caucasian capital hampers African Renaissance efforts. So this study tries to find out if Fumvudza, which is now being used by Brian O'Drave and his friend Stockhill, and also the Foundations for Farming NGO that is now running with the Fumvudza thing, along with the government of Zimbabwe, which is, again, as I was highlighted before, it has really come in and embraced this Fumvudza thing, and they are running with it. But isn't it a pre-colonial agriculture method? Shouldn't we be saying this is our own? It's not coming from Foundations for Farming, the NGO. And then the third theme is that of the use of colonial films for propaganda. So Beck and Kaff, they made films such as We Were Primitive, Phineas and Timothy, and Marimo Finds a New Life. About these three films are about farming, whereby Marimo finds a new life. Marimo gets a better life because he's now farming using the Caucasian ways of farming, while those who do not, they end up in poverty, they end up without food. And then Phineas and Timothy was shot in Malawi. That was in Nyasaland then in colonial times, and it's about black people who are in agriculture, and it was banned in Southern Rhodesia because in Southern Rhodesia only whites could farm tobacco. The blacks were not allowed to grow tobacco. And then these films use the good farmer, bad farmer dichotomies that I mentioned before. And the good farmer is rewarded and with financial gain, good harvest, children, a good marriage, while the bad farmer remains in poverty and is a drunkard and is a person who's shabby, things like that. So there was always this thing of punishing the one who does not follow the Caucasian way. So it is the studies contingent that these films demonized indigenous farming methods, which we call IAKS, and supplanted them with the scientific modern methods. So it's these on-screen punishments that led to black people having to let go of their farming techniques that were conservation agric techniques that used organic manure, organic fertilizers to take up the Caucasian way of farming. Theoretical framework, I'm using the Afrocentricity theory. The Afrocentricity theory was propounded by Asante in 1980. I wrote that Africans have been descended and they've lost their cultural footing, and they now live on the peripheries or on the fringes of Western thought. That's according to Asante, 2003. It is in direct opposition to Eurocentrism. Then Afrocentricity also calls for epistemic shift from European thought to African centeredness. So it's about an epistemic shift. Let's be centered in Africa. And then we should stop being Western copycats. That's according to Kugareta 2022 and Henderson and Lamont 2020 when using Afrocentrism. The moment we keep on following the Western way of thoughts, we remain copycats. And then this started also again, the issue of Christianity. Whenever you are now talking of Afrocentricity, it means you are more critical again of Christianity and its values. Why? Because it is an alien religion. And then when the methodology, so it was archival research of the Foundation for Farming videos. I got 5 Foundation for Farming videos that are used for analysis in this. But then the film We Were Primitive, it's missing. I tried to get it from the British film from the British Film Initiative, BFI. They're the ones who've got the Colonial Film Unit stock, but then they couldn't find it. So it is one of the missing films. So I had to use document analysis of other reviews of the film by people like Wongwe and Benz 2002, and also Davies 2002. There are people who also reviewed the film. And for data analysis, I used critical discourse analysis so that I can actually find out the issue of the words, the words and the discourses, the power behind some words. And I also used semantic analysis again, so that I could also cater for issues like camera angles that are used in the Foundations for Farming videos. And then thematic analysis, thematic data presentation is the method that I'm using to present data. So in the findings, I got 3 key findings. The first one is that the good farmer, bad farmer narrative that was used for the Kafu and the Beke films in the colonial Africa, they are still the ones being used by the Foundations for Farming videos that are being made in 2019, 2020. You find that, most of the videos, they try and show that there's someone who is opposing farming the way God wants, that there are some people who are opposing people having to dig up some holes using the hoe and stop using the ox-drawn plow or the tractor, but then use the hoe, which is very labor intensive. There's this Foundation for Farming video whereby the protagonist in the documentary will be saying some people don't like it that we do things differently. So they say, why are you doing it the way you are doing it? But we will keep on doing it. We'll keep on doing zero-tillage. That's what I was saying. I screenshotted that. So that shows that issue of the good farmer, bad farmer narrative. It is still pervading even now in the 2020 Foundation for Farming videos. And you find that in the film We Were Primitive, the bad farmer again does not listen to advice from the agriculture extension worker, and the farmer is a lazy person, and so Fumbuza is doing the same. So this agrees with the Benz 2002, 2018, Mboti 2016, Ungwe 2005, Fisher 2010 about the good farmer, bad farmer narrative. It is still there it is again there in the Foundation of Farming Agriculture. They want people just to take what they say at face value. Then even the camera angles, they legitimize the good farmer. Brian O'Drive, the one who came up with the Fumbuza concept. the camera actually is tilted upwards so that he appears like he's a giant person, and then the maize that is showing off in the video also appears very tall and healthy. So they are even legitimizing that using camera angles. And then we also found the discourse of the Bible. The Bible, I remember I said, according to Stockhill, Pumvudza is farming the way God wants. So you also find that, according to Stockhill and O'Drave, farming God's way. So again, there's even a screenshot of a facilitator holding a Bible, and some women are seated also with some with Bibles open, and others are taking notes. So the Bible is there to legitimize the Pumvudza. O'Drave says he actually had this vision, or the epiphany happened to him because he was fasting and praying a lot. That's when he found out about this issue of Pumvudza. That's how it came to him. He was fasting and praying. So the Bible is being used again, just like the Bible was used in colonization. It's being used to eclipse the fact that this is our own method. It's not something that comes from O'Drave. And then we go to the issue of is Pumvudza the pre-colonial agriculture? Yes, it is. So Pumvudza is just appropriation of IKS. I have a screenshot of some holes that have been dug in the ground, and people are planting seed after seed, hole by hole. This is what we were doing before the white men came. So yes, it is appropriation. And then again, I have the screenshots of the holes that were used in pre-colonial Zimbabwe and pre-colonial Africa. And then also bringing the issue of the public versus private transcript, whereby when performing in public, because of power relations, poor people, or those who feel they are less powerful, they end up saying things to please someone whom they feel is superior. That is the public transcript, versus the private transcript, whereby they know deep down that no, this person, I'm lying. This person is not even this good. So here in one of the videos, we've got someone saying, then I started using the manure of my chickens in my farm. Honestly, we've been using organic manure even before these white people came. But then someone is now saying this as a performance of proving that without the white men coming to teach them from foods, they were not using chicken manure or cattle manure or goat manure, which shows that the public versus private transcript, they are performing the public transcript to please the Caucasian. And all this, that means even though the black person is in that video talking on their own, unlike with we were primitive way, it's the white script writer would grabbed the white man's voice, according to David 2002. So the white script writer appropriated the black person's voice so that the black person could call himself or herself primitive. But now we are finding that because of the public versus private transcript, the public transcript is being acted where the superiority of the Caucasian is still being propagated. So we are saying pretty much bakera or like agriculture using the fist, or we are saying you are using your hands. You hold the hoe, and when you're holding something, it's like it's a fist. So we call it pretty much bakera or farming